It's enchanting. I mean, the people and the country. I mean, they capture your soul and your heart.
A lot of my young soldiers had never been anywhere like that before in their lives, and they were absolutely dumbstruck.
It was a conflict that I think we all really believed in. It was a conflict post 9/11, but it felt so important to us.
They had gun on their shoulders. It's a nightmare.
Taliban might kill me, they might torture me, they might kill my wife. We thought it is time to leave the country.
I've concluded that it's time to end America's longest war. It's time for American troops to come home.
In April 2021, American President Joe Biden announces US troops will leave Afghanistan in September, 20 years after the 9/11 attacks. No international troops will stay on without the Americans. As they withdraw, the Taliban are swift to take control. They move far faster than anyone anticipates. On the 7th of August, the Taliban seize Sherbet, the capital of Jowzjan province. On the 8th, they capture the provincial capitals of Saripul, Kunduz and Talagan as fighting rages across the country.
I think it'd be fair to say that the events in Afghanistan have unfolded and the collapse has been faster than I think even the Taliban themselves predicted.
On the 9th of August, Taliban fighters seize Aibak. On the 10th, they take Farah and Puli Kumri. And on the 11th, the Taliban capture Faizabad, the capital of Badakhshan province.
It was unnerving to watch it unfold. I was still in touch with Afghan security forces in Helmand, still in touch with many of my former interpreters. So I was getting something of a sort of a ground eye view as to what was happening.
Thousands of Afghans who risked their lives to support British troops are now in peril. The UK's armed forces will have to mount an evacuation unlike any other in recent history.
This is as big as it gets. I don't think I've seen an airlift as large and complex as this.
Some people won't get back, and we will have to do our best in third countries to process those people.
There are people there who are still living underground. They are not going out. They are terrified.
This is the story of Operation Pitting, the mission to evacuate the men and women of Afghanistan. The biggest UK airlift since the Second World War.
I was just shocked. I really never expected that the whole country is gonna collapse. As a military person, I was there, I was inside the war. I never really expected even the capital is gonna collapse, but it happened.
Early August and fighting is fierce in Lashkargah, the capital of Helmand. The UK once controlled this region. Thousands of British troops fought here. 457 lost their lives.
All that effort, how quickly it was just undone and reversed.
In this Taliban video, the group claimed to have captured a police station in Lashkargah. 8 years after the UK left Helmand, the region is still home to most former interpreters and local staff who served with British troops. Former Major General Charlie Herbert served 3 tours of duty in Afghanistan. Now he hears worrying news.
Those interpreters that I was in touch with and local staff were deeply concerned. They were very worried. Those Afghan security forces that I was in touch with, they were foolishly confident, I think, that they could withstand a Taliban onslaught on Lashkargah.
Back in the UK, the MOD asked Colonel Rosie Stone to verify the identity of former Afghan students. Rosie is a reservist who served multiple tours in Afghanistan. She's also course director of the Human Security course at the British Defence Academy in Shrivenham.
I then started getting inundated, as many others were, with calls and requests for assistance. There were and still are a lot of women at risk. It was almost overwhelming.
On the 12th of August, the Taliban capture Afghanistan's third largest city, Herat, and its second largest city, Kandahar. Taliban soldiers also take the city of Ghazni.
Ghazni is not too far from Kabul, and I knew that was hours away. And if the Taliban wanted to, they could be in Kabul quite quickly.
The Taliban offensive is starting to look unstoppable. Gohar is working as a female prosecutor in the remote northern province of Saripol.
We can hear the sound of gunfire around the city, and we thought when the Taliban took the city, the first people that they might kill, they are judges, they are prosecutors, they are the commanders.
British military planners now believe an air evacuation is essential, but this would be unlike anything the UK's done in recent history. Lieutenant General James Bashall is a former CO of 2-Para and a former Chief of Staff at the UK Armed Forces Permanent Joint Headquarters in Northwood.
What really, I'm not shocked, but made people wary of this was just the size of it and the numbers involved for the Americans to get their people out. And the number, because it's landlocked, it's going to have to be by air, and the number of aircraft sorties required to get that magnitude of people away from Afghanistan.
On the 13th of August, Lashkargah, the capital of Helmand province, falls to the Taliban.
Hi, Charlie.
Charlie Herbert is getting increasingly desperate messages, one from former army interpreter Jamal about his family who are still trapped in Lashkargah.
I was also in touch with a number of interpreters in the United Kingdom, one of whose father had been the gardener in the headquarters of the British task force in Lashkargah, a lovely gentleman called Shaista. Shaista was trapped in Helmand over that period.
Last night, someone knocked the door and there were Talibans, and they asked my brother, "Where's your dad?" My brother said, "We don't know where's my dad, he's not in the home." So they said, "Okay, you come with us," and they have took my brother. So we don't know whether they have taken him. I'm not sure whether they're going to ask something about me, my father. I'm not sure what they're going to ask. I hope they're not going to beat him because he's only 16. If they beat him too much, he's going to say, "Yes, he's at home, my father." I'm so scared, to be honest. I don't know what to do.
Newlyweds Najib and Gohar are working in northern Afghanistan in high-risk jobs. He's an intelligence officer in the Afghan army. She's the first female state prosecutor in her province.
I was like hiding my identity because it was dangerous if the people of that area know I am a prosecutor. I am putting the persons who commit against a woman a crime, I'm putting them on jail. They might kill me.
I thought that if I'm gonna stay, Taliban might kill me, they might torture me, they might kill my wife, they might torture my family. For my own security and for her security as well, we thought it is time to leave the country.
Gohar goes to the countryside to hide with her family. Najib goes to Kabul to try and find a way out.
It was shocking for me, and I was scared because I thought I was not able to go to the airport because there was too many people crowded behind these doors.
The Afghan president leaves suddenly by helicopter, allegedly taking millions of dollars in cash.
We feel very sad because we are like a soldier. We are in battle flat, in battle area. How come our president accept to leave us in battle and they went to another country? How come?
President Ghani's departure is a huge blow for his supporters, including Charlie Herbert's former interpreter Hanif, who's working for Ghani in Kabul.
Hanif sent me a tearful WhatsApp message of WhatsApp voice message from the presidential palace on the morning that President Ghani and his entourage got on the helicopters and left. I mean, Hanif had been rejected by the British for relocation under the Arab scheme. He'd been rejected. Can you imagine what it's like to deal with somebody like that?
The Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, or ARAP, is the British government's scheme to grant UK residency to Afghans who served alongside British troops in Afghanistan for all those eligible. But by August 2021, staff are struggling to process tens of thousands of applications from Afghans terrified by the prospect of Taliban rule. 20 years after being chased from power, the Taliban are back in control on the streets of Kabul. Former Afghan National Army soldier Abdul, who was trained by British troops, begins a desperate search of his house to remove all traces of his military career.
I search all my home, my house, about all army sign which belong to me, like my uniform, my shoes, my all certificates, something. I put it on the fire. Yeah, because maybe the Taliban is coming and searching our house.
The first of 1,000 British troops to arrive in Kabul. These men and women have been called up for Op Pitting, the operation which will become the largest British evacuation since the Second World War.
Two para arrived, company at a time, into Kabul airport. Now, when I first went to Kabul airport in 2001, there was a long runway which had holes in it because the Americans had bombed it when they were fighting the Taliban, and there was just one runway with a little bit of shelter. By 2021, it was an extremely well-found international airport with a big military section as well as a civil section, but it was vulnerable.
Those in charge of the British operation also have to work out how to operate inside what is now a hostile country.
It's quite obvious that the Taliban now have are the prevalent security providers across Afghanistan. That's a fact.
The government have fallen, and now we've just got a Taliban who are not yet really in power, so who are we going to speak to, who's got authority, who can control the Taliban foot soldiers on the ground.
And across Kabul, chaos reigns, as all those who once risked their lives to work with international troops descend on the airport to escape Taliban rule.
I don't think anyone foresaw the crushing sea of humanity at the gates. People got onto the runway, and we were very concerned at that point that we would be dealing with large numbers of casualties.
As well as the desperation on the runway, former interpreters who'd fought with British forces were being hunted down by Taliban death squads. The man who filmed these images jumps from a third-floor window to escape discovery.
Just dreadful. You know, it's just appalling, isn't it? Not good.
Military planes are cramming in as many people as they can, hundreds more than they'd usually take on each flight.
This is as big as it gets. Certainly over my 30-odd years in the military, I don't think I've seen an airlift as large and complex as this.
But it's crystal clear there won't be room for everybody. Rosie Stone is able to help two of her connections find safety, but a third student is struggling.
She had been working as a civilian protection advisor with the government, and I was able to confirm that she and her family were safe, but that the situation was deteriorating very rapidly for them, and they were getting very, very concerned.
They've risked their lives the last 20 years, and at the very least, our obligation has to be as many of these people through the pipeline as possible. But I think I also said, and it's a really deep part of regret for me, that some people won't get back. Some people won't get back, and we will have to do our best in third countries to process those people.
Why do you feel it so personally, Mr. Wallace?
Because I'm a soldier. Because it's sad, and the West has done what it's done. And we have to do our very best, Nick, to get people out and stand by our obligations. And 20 years of sacrifice is what it is.
For those who do make it through the Taliban cordon and pass the British eligibility checks, they're allowed just one 10-kilogram bag for every family group.
We can't carry anything because at the first time when we arrived at the airport, when we go inside the crowd, if we had a suitcase, how we carry that? So we just came with our clothes. But yeah.
British soldiers are getting messages from interpreters they worked with and Afghan National Army soldiers they mentored. Former Army Major John Carson served on the front line in Afghanistan in 2011 and deployed again to the country in 2013 to train Afghan National Army officers at the Officer Training School in Kabul, which became known as Sandhurst in the Sand.
Abdul was an Afghan officer. I worked with him day in, day out. We're both trying to work each other out and see how we both tick. He came across as quite an honourable person. He was definitely capable.
Had you kept in touch?
No, we hadn't kept in touch, to be honest, but I did leave contact details, and I guess the part of the message was, well, if you ever need any help, then give me a shout.
Former Afghan army soldiers are terrified they'll be killed for their military service. Abdul sends a message to John and he tells him to get to the airport as fast as he can.
About 6 times or 7 times I went to the Kabul airport. I went to each gate. I tried too much to go in, but I can't. It was very difficult for me because there was 3 small children with me, my wife, me. There was too much people.
Since their arrival into the capital, the Taliban have control of Kabul International Airport. They're guarding the airport's outer perimeter and keeping control of the civilian side of the airport, cancelling all civilian flights. But they come to an agreement with the Americans to grant international troops control of the military side of the airport until the end of August. The Americans control the airport's North Gate and the Abbey Gate. 2 para are guarding the Barons Hotel. All Afghans who want to come to the UK are told to go here first to check they're eligible to be flown out.
It was chaotic. Those who were called forward, they had very scant information as to where they were to go. You'd go to the Barons Hotel. And the amount of people who were just not quite sure where they were supposed to be going, and when they'd meet this melee, they'd fight to get through the Taliban outer checkpoints. Many of them would be beaten, they'd be whipped, or they'd be beaten or pistol whipped or whatever.
Abdul and his youngest son Omar, who's just 15 months old, are beaten as he carries him in his arms. As he battles to get his family to safety, Abdul is constantly in touch with John.
I guess I was just trying to boost Abdul's morale and just essentially saying, I'm not out there with you, but you need to kind of do your best to work out where the British are.
Kabul airport is dangerous and desperate, but at least there's a chance of escape. In other parts of the country, people are paralysed with terror.
What do you do when your entire country has been overtaken by a group who ideologically seek retribution against everything that you have done over the last 20 years? Some of them had received, proper death sentences, signed, sealed death sentences delivered to them over the last 4 years. They were terrified to stick their head outside of their houses.
Charlie is trying to find a way to get Shaista to safety. He served on the British military base at Lashkar, tending a garden for British troops. Now his city is under Taliban rule and he's being threatened. Charlie uses his contacts to help Shaista escape as far as Kabul.
We got him to the Taliban gates outside the evacuation centre, but we never got him to the front of the evacuation centre. We got him around to the back gates. We worked through our informal network with our colleagues and our friends in the parachute regiment to try and get him in through the back gate. And this is what everybody was doing. I'm not critical, this is what had to be done. You know, individuals supporting individuals, working with friends and colleagues because the system was broken.
Standing on those gates, unable to help the thousands of desperate people begging to get in, isn't easy for the soldiers either.
I think some of the soldiers witnessed some, really awful, babies squashed, and babies being thrown over the top of the wire, and just people pleading for help. It's very, very difficult for young men and women to be put in that environment where they then determine who's going to live and who's going to die.
The baby that was handed over the wall to the US Marines ended up here at the Royal II Hospital, and amongst many other children that were separated from their parents were looked after by the staff here in the Royal II. They waited to be either shipped on to a safe destination or reunited with their parents.
It was midnight in Kabul. I jumped on the river. There was a river. On that river also there was not like clean water. There was very dirty water. Water up to up to here. When I jumped to the river, when I close to the British soldier, at first they don't accept me. Up to on that time I called through to John.
There was a lot of kind of noises, disturbance in the background. It sounded like an angry mob almost. He shouted at somebody going, "Can you come and speak to Captain John?" Come and speak to Captain John, and then it kind of goes quiet. Then I just say on the phone, "Who is this?" And then the person responded with, "Oh, it's Lance Corporal so and so from 2 Para." And I was elated. I was like, right, eventually he's got to a British person and someone who I can talk to. And I essentially just quite quickly rambled and says that this family's registered under the ARAP scheme. I'm the UK sponsor. I know a kind of couple of people in your unit. He's got a letter, to give to you, to give to these people. So can you get them through? And the NCO just responded with, "Yeah, no worries, boss. I'll get it sorted." And that was well, what a great line. Don't know who the guy was, but if he remembers that phone call, then thanks very much.
The soldier gave his hand to me and pushed me up from the river. British soldier from that time changed my life.
Najib and Gohar are still trying desperately to get out of the country.
All the roads were full of Taliban, and I was hiding on the Bukra, and I was like praying. I was praying, God, please help me. And when I arrived at the Kabul and we went to the airport, I saw lots of crowd, lots of people. I lost my hope. I said to Najib, we can't get there.
In 2018, Najib attended the Royal Military Training Academy Sandhurst in the UK. Now he desperately tries to contact the British soldiers he trained with.
One of my platoon mates, luckily he sent another message to me, "Hi miss, I'm in Kabul airport." And he said, "There is a big tower, I'm gonna go up there and I will see if where are you?" And I came to Baron Kurtz, and he went up there, and I saw him, and he waved me, "Hi Najib," and he guided me through those crowds. These people, I don't know if they are Talib or anybody, they had cables and they were hitting people. And one of them, they had a gun, I think it was AK-47. He was about to hit on my head. My friend opened the gate, and he basically pulled me in, and he from my shoulder and my wife, and yeah, that's how we got in. And when I get inside, I was kind of reborn, and my legs were shaking. I couldn't control myself, and just hugged me and said, "Don't worry, I'm here," and he saved me.
Just hours after Najib and Gohar reach safety, a suicide bomber detonates a device full of ball bearings into the packed crowd waiting at the Abbey Gate entrance to Kabul airport.
It was just very close enough to the Baron's gate, which we came in, and we could have been one of those victims.
I heard the news there was a suicide attack in Kabul airport.
Stop short! Stop short!
Still, I'm very, very, very sad about that suicide. Too much people died on that suicide.
The last evacuation flights leave Kabul, and 1,000 British troops who deployed on Op Pitting are recalled home.
I'm afraid it's absolutely heartbreaking that we can't bring everybody out. And I think that point's been made very strongly, certainly by the Defence Secretary and others over the last 10 days or so. Personally, I've probably had over 100 messages from different Afghans who I know in my long association with the country. And many of those friends of mine won't make it out.
I think the timeline had been agreed that we would have our last flight would be the 31st of August. I think there'd been political pressure on the US president to delay that, but he didn't want to do that, so we had to stick with the timelines.
I still don't know who was evacuated. Nobody knows who was evacuated over Operation Pitting. Our sense is that not many eligible Afghan relocation and assistance personnel were actually lifted out, and certainly very, very few of the interpreters.
In just over 2 weeks, the men and women who served on Operation Pitting evacuated over 15,000 people from Taliban-controlled Afghanistan.
I think what was achieved in those 2 or 3 weeks was frankly phenomenal, and I take my hat off to the personnel from all three services, you know, from a UK perspective, but across the board, what they managed to achieve in such a short time was pretty impressive.
To go as fast as they did, and people to break the readiness to get on flights, and then to operate and survive and help the Afghans in that environment, quite remarkable.
For those who made it out on those life-saving flights, the chance to start a new life in the UK.
Sometimes when I think it's a dream. My hope is this: in future, my daughter should be a very intelligent doctor. I'm very happy because my wife is happy, my children is happy. I'm also, yeah.
Now we are in a really different life. Now I can see the people, they are living, they can be happy, they can go to school. It's really different from our country because nobody has the right to live in our country. So now I am trying to fix my English language, improve it, and then I want to start my master's degree and become a professional lawyer, and yeah, be happy. Yeah.